The Crossroads represents a place where two or more roads intersect. And figuratively, a crossroads is that crucial point in life at which a critical decision is made that oftentimes will determine future direction. For many of us, sports are a reflection of life, and sometimes life can even feel like a reflection of sports. At this crossroads, we will dive into the good, the bad, and the sometimes ugly with your favorite athletes, coaches, and entertainers to give you a peek behind the curtain. How do they balance real life with their passions? How do they overcome obstacles? What did they learn from each challenge along the way? We're about to find out. Welcome to the Crossroads, the intersection of sports and life. And here's your host of the Crossroads, Shawn Walli.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 2 of The Crossroads. Today's guest, I almost feel like the basketball show of record because episode 1 was a high school basketball coach. Now we upgrade to the college ranks. From St. Martin's University, head coach of women's basketball, Natalie Marlowe. Natalie, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You are entering season 4 already in Lacey, Washington, Division II, out of the GNAC, the Great Northwest Athletic Conference. Mm-hmm. Time is flying by.
It is. Just a short time ago, I was, enjoying a different type of beach down in Monterey, but it's, like you said, it's flown by, and it's honestly been a whirlwind, but in the best way. I've really grown to love St. Martin's in general, but the community. It's actually the first place that I've worked as a coach that I have family, like blood relatives. My mom's cousin lives in Seattle with his family, and then my cousin lives down in Portland. So it's been a blessing to, have them here, but also to get to know the community that we have at St. Martin's and those that have now become my family.
You mentioned being down in the Monterey area. Mm-hmm. Why St. Martin's? Why Lacey, Washington?
Yeah, coaching jobs are hard to come by. I wanted to be a head coach for the longest time. I've going into year 14. It's kind of crazy to think I've been doing this for 14 years at the collegiate level, both as an assistant and now as a head coach. But, after COVID, during COVID, I got my first head coaching job at Hartnell. I wanted to get back to that 4-year level. My time at Cal State Monterey Bay, I really got to the point of loving the Division II level. You can have the same competition level as Division I's have with a work-life balance, and I think a balance for the student athletes at the Division II level. So, when the St. Martin's job came open, and after the success I did have at Hartnell, it just felt right. I came on my interview, and it just felt like home. I was raised in a Catholic environment back in Milwaukee, and like I said, the community has really become an extension of my family. So everything felt right when I was here. And again, just it's a blessing to still be here and have the support I do.
When you took over at Hartnell, I believe they had one victory the season prior to your arrival as head coach. And St. Martin's was struggling when you took over, and now you've had back-to-back 18-win seasons. What is your method to the madness?
It's honestly, it's simple, and it may seem like fluff to everybody else, but it's really just having a belief in myself as the leader of the program, but also you gotta, kids need to feel like you believe in them. And I truly, truly believe that the group of people that we had is the reason why we've been successful the last couple years. Even in my first year, only winning 8 games. When we won those games, in my opinion, was why we found success. In year 2 and year 3 for me, we just built off of the core values that I established when I started. Passion, purpose, perseverance, and family were the 4 pillars of what I wanted our program to look like. The players that were able to return and come back really bought into those. With those core values, our philosophy has been play hard, play smart, play together, and have fun. And, I tell every recruit, I tell our players every day, we have to do those first 3 things so that we can have fun. If we're having fun and we're loving what we're doing, and doing with the people that we love and care about, then we're going to want to do those first three things every single day. And it's just a revolving door of, again, if you've got a little seed of belief and you can plant that and water it, things are going to spread. And again, it's a testament to players that I had and inherited when I got here. It's just been a blessing to have belief in me with, our support in the community and in our athletic department.
How rewarding is it for you and your players to see that belief and that passion and the effort and energy come to fruition?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I tell this story to people all the time, like especially kind of dating back to Hartnell. I had, like you mentioned, right, my first season as a head coach, we won one game. And I had started with 8 players on my team, ended with 6, and then had 5 for about 4 games. So
wow.
It's kind of one of those, we get to that midpoint in the season of and we won our first and only game my first year as head coach at Hartnell, the second game of the year. So it was losing for literally the rest of the year. And at one point, I think we had maybe 3 weeks of games left or 2 weeks of games left. Obviously, we're not winning conference or anything. And I asked our kids, and at this point we had 5 players eligible. We can just show up and roll the balls out in practice, or, I can keep coaching you and staying on you. And each and every one of those kids said that they still wanted to be coached. They still wanted to, put the work in, even though we probably weren't going to get a win. And to see those kids stick around, it's easy to turn your back and walk away if you don't win games. But every kid that was able to come back and play their second year did. And because of that, again, that culture was established. They knew what the expectations were. And to see those kids go from winning basically nothing to winning a championship their next year, that's, I think, the most rewarding thing that I've felt as a coach. And to kind of take that the same steps that I took at Hartnell and carry those over to St. Martin's, we knew that first year was going to be an uphill battle no matter what. I needed them to believe that it was going to be better for the long run. So maybe not, the sophomores that I, had my first year. Maybe it wasn't going to be that year, but either their second year, third year, hopefully as seniors. And, we got a lot more wins than they had their first 2 years. And so I'm super proud of the effort and their commitment to themselves, honestly, to themselves and the growth that they had becoming sisters. And I think really just, forging relationships that are going to last a lifetime for them. That's really the most rewarding thing as a coach.
How have you molded your coaching style?
It's a good question. It's definitely, I will say COVID was probably the best blessing for me, and, people can think otherwise, but I knew I was working with house money, and I knew I could make a bunch of mistakes because ultimately my first year as a head coach was on Zoom. A lot of it was virtual, so I could try a bunch of things, and it was really error free, whether it worked or it didn't. I mean, I truly didn't know because a lot of it had little to do with basketball, had everything to do with leading and connecting and building relationships. So that's one thing that I think we should constantly as coaches be doing, is trying to learn, seeing how we can develop and grow ourselves. Because if we're asking our players and our student athletes to grow, we're not holding that standard and raising those expectations ourselves. So I've really learned you've got to be able to understand the individual player. You can coach your team. You have to coach, obviously, your team. But at the end of the day, you're not going to get as much out of that individual, which is going to be better for the team unless you know them. So relationships are huge. And it's a two-way street, right? Coaches and players both need to be able to buy into that. So we've spent a lot of time team building, and I've done a lot of in the off-season research and downtime, communicating with people outside of basketball, coaching in other sports, how they can relate to players. So I want to say that I've really adjusted how I approach each individual player as much as possible.
Going back to your playing days, high school, Chicago State University, how has the game changed today?
That could be a whole nother show.
We can do it.
Yeah, no, it's changed a lot, and I think the people that say it hasn't are oblivious to what actually happens. we have to be able to pivot. How we communicate has to be adjusted. I like to think of myself as old school and like an old soul, and I want to be able to coach kids hard and tough, but I feel like you can't relate to certain players that way unless you are at maybe the highest level, because that's where their expectations are. It's not that I coach down or coach any less than I want to get out of my players. It just takes a little bit longer, I think, and again, that individual relationship you have to build. Those players need to know that you care about them and that you have their best interests at heart before you can really ride them and get on them as hard as some coaches may do. I'm not like a rah-rah coach. Like, I'm not going to be your biggest fan. Like, that's what I think assistant coaches are for, and also parents and teammates. But I'm going to hold them accountable, and holding them accountable, making sure that I'm instilling discipline in them. It's going to obviously help us win basketball games, but that's going to help them win in life. And so that's really how I like to lead is I want to serve them. I want to get to know what they need me to pull out of them that they can't pull out of themselves. So, obviously the pace of the game is different when we're talking X's and O's. Like, a lot of teams are going positionless now. I still believe in positions. I want my players to be able to do a little bit of everything, but I still believe in positions on the floor. Having a back to the basket post, I think, is a rarity these days. And so if you can have one of them on your team, a lot of times other teams don't know how to stop it. So I think that's something I really like to challenge myself with, is how can we schematically just be better than each individual team that we play? Because I think individual games you got to find ways to win every single night, not just one consistent way to win every single season.
No matter what, basketball is still a team game, always has been, always will be, even though there seems to be a lot of one-on-one, I can do everything.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. And that's something that I was looking at Just Play, which is our scouting report system and our playbook and stuff, and he's taken me through our lineups, and we're a very highly assisted team, and that's something that we talk about. We work on passing every day because I think it's really important to understand you have to share the ball, because if you can, a team can't stop you. You've got to have players, obviously, that can go get a bucket one-on-one, create for themselves. But if you have different levels and different ways to score, it becomes really hard for teams to get a stop. And again, like we pride ourselves on our defense. That's where, we were ranked 20th in the country for Division II for scoring defense, and I'm super proud of that. And I think, there was 2 games that kept us out of the top 10, honestly. And so when you can buy into the defensive end of things on top of making sure that a win is the most important thing instead of individual accolades, I think that sets you up for a lot of success.
So many times, one extra pass does more good than bad.
Yep, a lot. And that's something we had to talk about, honestly, with our team, was sometimes we made too many passes. We needed to take another shot instead of that one more. But at the end of the day, as long as if they're passing, they believe in their teammate. And that's something that, again, like, you have to have that bond and that chemistry. And I think that comes from preseason work, off-season work, building those relationships, obviously coaches and players, but the players really loving and caring about who they're around is important.
Year 2 at St. Martin's, you got to host the Great Northwest Athletic Conference basketball championships.
Yes.
And you won a game.
We did.
Hadn't been done in a long time. It was on your home floor. What do you remember about that moment?
Yeah. That was obviously it was a fun season. We had a massive win for our last game of the regular season over Anchorage, who was obviously ranked nationally, ended up winning the conference tournament. But it was, again, it's that belief. Like, we talked from the beginning of the season, every time we were in a huddle, we said GNAC champs. That's something that I'm a huge believer in manifestation and talking things into existence. And if you can, as a player, especially during this period of your life, get on board and believe in, like, yourself first and foremost, and then something bigger than you as our team. It was awesome to see that come to fruition. And it really, it's still a little blurry, all those games, to be completely honest with you, but that first one was huge. I think nobody gave us a chance, playing against 2 of the best players in the country in Sonny and Asher Kai. that was an uphill battle, and something that, we just had a lot of pride in our defense and stopping kids who are very capable of scoring a bunch of points. So we just kept believing, and I think really that getting over the hump of beating Anchorage and just all the work that we put in when those kids who hadn't won a bunch of games, like they finally started seeing more W's than L's, it does something to you, right? It gives you a lot more confidence and a lot more belief in the work that you're putting in. It's paying off. And so, just to see the joy in those players, in our players' faces and even our coaching staff, which in turn was a whole different conversation, losing an assistant in November. It just made that run that we had so much more special.
Sure, as you said, helps with that belief, that confidence, and lets you know you're going down the right road.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, in those moments, right, the players need to look to you, and you need to make sure that you're not too high and too low in big situations like that. So, after that win, obviously we celebrated. I'm big on that. You can't just turn the page. Even in a conference tournament, you just get to celebrate a little bit less. So we did. We were super proud of that, and then built off that, obviously, going into the semifinals against Billings. But, it was an awesome moment. And I think still to this day when, we're talking to recruits or looking back at, what we can put on social media or things, like you go back to, the photos that were captured in those two games, and just, again, the pure joy that was written all over our players' faces and body language, and even the fans. Being at home was huge. That really helped a lot. So it was just really an awesome moment, I think, for St. Martin's in general, to just know that we've got a great community around us.
As you know, I've done 6 GNAC championships now. Yep. On the broadcast.
The veteran.
It's taken over for Robert Lowry, that's for sure. It's I don't care what school it is. Mm-hmm. It's so much better for the tournament, for the atmosphere, when the host school is in it.
Yep.
Whether it's St. Martin's, Western Washington, Central Washington, whoever it is.
Yeah.
Just get in, because it brings the fans, and the atmosphere is that much better. No,
absolutely. And that was something too. I mean, obviously, we didn't have things go our way this past season. But the environment was, it's great when you have a home team playing. It gives these kids something to look forward to. And so, the reward of making the tournament and having the opportunity to play in it is great. Experiencing it is something of itself. So yeah, it was cool. And that was, I think, the fun part for us for this year was the seniors that we had. They had not beaten Western Washington at all in their college career. So obviously we beat them on our home court this past season. And then we had high expectations going in and hoping to get a win on that court, but fell a little bit short. But even so, it's something that they'll remember for the rest of their lives.
14 conference wins in this past season. You've got to be looking at and circling that top spot in the GNAC in 26, 27.
Yeah, I'd be lying to you if I told you that wasn't my goal from the start. I think it's all of us as coaches, we're competitive and we want to coach because we are competitive. But that's something that we talk about. I'm not the type of coach who shies away from it with our players. I think it's important for them to have those conversations and understand the gravity that comes along with what you can do when you have found success repeatedly. We were picked 3rd overall in preseason polls. Obviously, we ended up there, but the one thing that I have not forgotten about is we were probably about, I think it was 6 or 8 points shy of actually winning and being first place in the conference. Had we, scored 4 more points against Central twice, essentially, we're holding that top spot. So even though it looks like, we tied for second, we were right there, and we're competing with, obviously we split with Western. We lost both to Central, but wasn't because we weren't close and we weren't right there. So that is something that, again, I'm really excited for that target to continue to be on our back. I think if you're looking up at people, something's wrong, and you got to find some way to change things. So as of right now, with how things ended, we're still looking up at a couple, but I feel really good about where we're heading.
Well, Coach, this show is called The Crossroads. And the reason for that is to get an idea of how you've overcome an obstacle, whether it be coaching in your playing days or something in your personal life. When you've come to a crossroads, what was that moment and how did you deal with it?
Yeah, there's honestly, it's hard to choose just one. There's been a lot, throughout. I mean, my high school, senior year of high school, I blew my knee out my second game of the season and lost out on some scholarship opportunities and, possibly playing somewhere else. As hard as that was, I find it to be the biggest blessing that I've had in my life because it allowed me to see the game from a different perspective. Before getting into college, I had an idea that I wanted to try to pursue coaching, but I had to find a way to impact my team, even though I couldn't physically play. So I became another assistant coach on the team. I feel like it really made me a better basketball player when I was able to return, obviously, when I played in college. But I've always tried to maintain the perspective of things happen for a reason, and there's a lesson that you can take out of everything, and it's really how you respond to things. So when I was hurt, that was rough. It was probably one of the hardest things, all while my parents were going through a separation and a divorce. So you got a high school kid who's got big dreams of playing Division I basketball, finally figured out how to do that, how to train. I'm going to school at 6 a.m. to work out before school, and then I'm there for school, then I've got practice, and so I finally figured it out. It's clicking, and then that happened. So it sucked. Like, you can't beat around the bush. It was awful. It was hard. But I still had an opportunity and coaches that believed in me at Chicago State. So, fast forward to going through rehab. I can promise you that my mom was furious with me because there was a summer league game, and I had surgery in mid-January, and then I had an opportunity to play in some summer league games that I technically wasn't cleared for yet by my doctor, but most of the people that know me know I'm a little stubborn when it comes to certain things. But so I played in a summer league game 5 months after surgery because I'm like, if I don't just do it, I'm going to be thinking and doubting and hesitating about how my knee is recovering. But I swear by it. My surgeon, after the surgery, said everything went well. You don't need to wear a brace. I fixed your knee. It's good to go. And that was all the confidence I needed to have. So probably a little too much confidence coming back a little too early. But again, that was something that you can convince, and kind of touching back to the belief part. I believed in my doctor. I believed in myself. And I believed that nothing was going to prevent me from, achieving my dreams of playing Division I basketball. And then that experience sitting out and then going through that, it really just opened my eyes to, I want to help people that are going through this, kids that are going through this later in their lives, pull something out of themselves that they might not have known existed, a belief that literally nobody can stop you and prevent you from doing whatever you put your mind to. So again, all the lessons, and there's plenty else that go along with it, but it really propelled me into finding a love for obviously the game, but really my purpose for trying to give back and provide opportunities for kids I have the privilege to coach.
The only person that can get in your way is you.
Yep, 100%.
Get out of your own way, right?
Exactly.
In our final minutes here, Coach, why should a basketball player in high school or another college take a look at St. Martin's University and your program?
You're going to get everything out of me, everything out of my staff. We don't recruit kids. We don't just throw out offers and recruit the best players. I truly believe that these 4 years are some of the most important years of a young woman's life. I want to be there to support, guide, help. We're never going to force you into being something you're not. This is a place where you're going to be able to thrive as a human being, obviously as a basketball player, as a student, but as a human, preparing you for what's to come in your future. We don't beat around the bush. We're very transparent, very honest. We love hard, and that's because we play hard and we expect big things. So you're going to get a huge support staff. You're going to be competitive. You're going to become a better basketball player, but ultimately we want kids to have the right fit for them so that they can be themselves, they can explore whatever they want to, and ultimately just find what their purpose is for their future.
St. Martin's University women's basketball head coach Natalie Marlowe. Coach, thank you so much for your time, your insight, and looking forward to another fantastic GNAC season in 26-27.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you to Madeline Brown for helping out here, and also Davis Carball with St. Martin's Athletics. This is The Crossroads, Episode 2, St. Martin's University head coach Natalie Marlowe of women's basketball.